What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Beyond Normal podcast. We got some amazing female founders lined up for everybody today. We're going to hop right into it. But before we do that, I just want to do a quick shout out to our sponsors over at Valorit. They've been amazing partners so far for this season and even in our second season as well, making sure that we curate this list of founders for everybody to, digest the content and hear the stories, because that's what we want to make sure that this platform is used for. But again, Valorit is our partner, as you guys know, or for the new listeners, right? Valorit is doing some amazing things in the logistics space, import, export. So when you want to get your products around the world, make sure that you don't not only just import it, but you Valorit. Again, Valorit has been amazing partners to us, but want to switch gears a little bit and really introduce the two amazing founders that we have for everybody today. Fix that lighting real quick. But first up, we have Kimberly Evans. She is the founder of Just Her Rideshare. She's doing amazing things around making sure that female drivers are connected with female riders for a safe experience there. And then last but certainly not least, Cara Branch. She is the founder of Black Girls Do Engineering Corporation. I love that name. I love the name of both of these platforms. But again, she is doing some amazing things, making sure that females from the age of 9 to 12 have that exposure to the STEM space. We all know that a lot of the jobs that are coming up on the horizon, they're STEM based, they're technology based. And so we want to make sure that we had that pipeline of Black females in a position to win in that space there. But I just want to say thank you both for chiming in with us today. How's it going?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super hyped to be here.
Certainly. And, again, I cannot say it enough. This is having these two amazing female founders on the stage at the same time is really a blessing for our platform. I think in terms of the work that you both are doing, is really in that tech space. There's some really great opportunities in this space when it comes to Black females. But I'm going to go ahead and shut up and get off the soapbox and allow you both to get up there. Cara, you want to give folks a little brief intro about yourself and how you got into things, and then we'll pivot over to Kimberly.
So sure, a little background about me. So I'm a chemical engineer. That's the degree that I hold as well. I just actually wrapped up 2 weeks ago my executive MBA. So I just transitioned into my secondary degree. And so STEM, it's very near and dear to my heart. Black Girls Do Engineer was founded in June 2019. And our organization goal is to provide access, awareness, and advocate for 2 million Black American girls to choose STEM. My story goes deep from me. My whole career, I've pretty much been the only Black woman in all of my roles. On my last team that I was on, I was the only Black person and Black woman on that team. And so this mission that I do here in Houston, Texas is very, very, very much important to me. I want to give girls the tools that to be able to go into these workforces and do the things that I love to do every day, but also help them stay. And my other goal is to make sure that we create comfortable spaces in these workplaces for Black women, because sometimes they don't always acknowledge us for the true queens that we are. And so I do a lot of work on that as well. So that's just a little intro about me.
Thanks for sharing that with us. We're going to pivot over to Kimberly. I got some stats. I want to make sure that we dive into it, but I definitely want to make sure Kimberly is able to give us a nice intro on her background as well before we dig into those stats.
Hi there. Again, Kenny, thanks so much for having me. And Cara, congratulations. What an accomplishment. So a little bit about me. I am a servant of others. I'm a mom, a wife of almost 25 years. I'm also a grandmom as well. About 5 years ago, I was made a grandma, but business experience goes back over 20 years. I've done both. I've had a 21-year career through the Postal Service, and then, but I've always been an entrepreneur and a business owner for over 20 years. Just Her Rideshare is super, super important to me because I wanted to find a space where women like myself who grew up sort of with stranger danger or felt uncomfortable in certain situations for several reasons, personal reasons that happened in my past, but I wanted to create a space for women to be able to have the right to choose their own rideshare experience. And so that's how Just Her Rideshare was birthed.
Thanks for that intro there, Kimberly. Again, I just want to reiterate what both these two amazing founders are doing. They're trailblazing, right? You both really touched on it, right? There's not a lot of people that look like you doing what you're doing, right? And so you're really breaking that mold. I can actually think in terms of some of the stats that I've seen, you know, in terms of Black females in the STEM space and engineering in particular. Carl, I know you've seen some of these stats before, but in terms of some of the other industries, we do see that Black females typically lead when it comes to making businesses, creating businesses, everything from retail to media, you name it. Typically, Black females are one of the pioneers. But I think in this engineering space is very interesting because I saw some stats as low as 5% or less of that population, right, is Black females. And so that's really a great opportunity because that 5% number probably pales in comparison to what we're seeing in other industries. Cara, would you want to kind of elaborate on that a little bit? Because I know you've been looking at these stats even deeper than I have.
So sure, yeah. So there's 25% of women in STEM, period, and 2.9% of that is Black women. Very, very low number. And so I'm working very hard to change that. A lot of course, as many of you may know or may not know, that STEM is a trailblazing industry. It's most definitely the future. And so my goal is to get that number up, most definitely, but most importantly, introduce the girls to hands-on based activities to gain that interest. Actually, what I've learned from doing my journey is girls are interested. My organization started just based alone off my daughter. I have 3 daughters, but my daughter, she was 8 at the time, and she came to me and said, "Mom, I want to be a software engineer." And I never really talked about what I did at home because of all my trials and tribulations. But when my daughter said that to me, I knew I had to do 2 things. First, her mom was the best one to help her achieve her goals. But I wanted to make sure I gave her a space with girls that looked just like her. So I told my husband that day, I'm going to go get my girls. And so I got off the floor and started this organization. And the job gap, there's like 500,000 jobs unfilled in STEM alone. And so there's a lot of room for opportunity in these spaces. And I want to make sure the girls in our community have that opportunity and that chance to go into these career spaces and excel.
I want to pivot on what you just said, Carl, because again, you seeing that's the pain point right there, and I think it really comes down to how we are positioning, how we're showcasing these different ways for people to have a career, right? We see all the stuff in our community. We glamorize athletes. We know we glamorize people that entertain us, right? But there's still some opportunity to kind of make some of these STEMs, make some of these technology companies like yours, Kimberly, look cool, right? And so, Kimberly, Can you talk a little bit around what you're seeing, like around that mind frame in terms of like making a platform that relates to people? Because I think you're doing some amazing things with Just Her Rideshare.
Absolutely. So for someone unlike Car, who's had sort of a career in sort of this industry, I started as a non-technical founder. I like to now refer to myself as a minimal technical founder because I had no idea that I would be launching a technology company at my age, at this point in my career, my entrepreneur journey. But one of the things that it did teach me is that that I could do it, regardless of what age, regardless of, your background, that this is a space where we all can sort of operate in. And so building a technology company has taught me, many things from learning development on the back end, the front end. I mean, it literally was like learning Chinese when I first started. But it's so needed because everything is moving toward technology. And I think it's super important that we train up our communities, our younger young men and women to sort of pursue this goal, because if there are other thriving careers as well, but a lot of them, no matter what industry you go in, they have some form of technology. So it's either you're going to have to get on board or you're going to be left behind. So it is super important for us to also let our communities know that we have the talent, we have the expertise to do it, and that it's also cool that it's not, just for geeks and smart people, that literally you can build apps and build no code and platforms, and it doesn't mean that you have to be afraid to sort of launch into this. So I would encourage anyone who is going to move into an industry, whether it be oh my God, no matter what road you're traveling, all things are going to lead back to technology. So again, I think it's super important that we train up the next generation to pursue this as well.
That is a great segue. I feel like you both already dropping gems, but taking that chance, right? That's been a consistent theme. Throughout the time that we've had the podcast, is really jumping off that cliff, right? Really taking a gamble on yourself. So I want to ask both of you, in terms of taking that next step, wearing that hat as an entrepreneur, what excites you about wearing that hat now, where it's typically not something that, from a textbook perspective, we have this laid out process for an entrepreneur. So I'm curious, how you're embracing that, experience of being an entrepreneur.
So for me, it's seeing the impact that my organization makes within the community. These girls, yes, I'm teaching them a lot of skills, but they're also giving me a lot too, and helping me grow as a person. So I love the work that I do. But most definitely impact, we've been able to help our college students land jobs. So to be able to take something that most college students worry about, what's next, right? And being able to present that opportunity and help them on their way, and see them go out and be happy on their first day of work, and earn salaries, and help them get the tools to not just take the first offer, help them negotiate those salaries. And so that's always important. But another thing with my younger girls is I have seen their confidence grow over the last 2 years. We spent our first meeting with girls just in awe of seeing Black women who are in these career spaces that look like them, to now they can tell you going into year 3 what they want to be, what colleges they want to go to. And they're way more confident than they were when we started. And so that's the joy of me being in this entrepreneur space, pursuing, I operate a nonprofit, of course, but pursuing working with the students in our community and just seeing growth and impact. I mean, that's just been wonderful for me. And that's what drives me to keep going every day.
Kimberly, you want to add to that?
So for me, entrepreneurship has been a part of my life for so long. I can remember starting my first company back in the early 90s. It failed, but it was my biggest life lesson. I learned so many things, but one of the most important things I learned was entrepreneurship, business ownership. Those of us who dare to pursue this journey are cut from a different cloth. I always say there's nothing wrong with the career path. I've done it. There's nothing wrong there. But entrepreneurship, business ownership, I believe, are key components to building not only wealth, but building legacy wealth. So I've embraced entrepreneurship. I teach entrepreneurship. I encourage it. We've got, my sons. I have 3 sons, and they've all taken different paths, from MBAs to first year college, withdrawing from school. I thought I'd lose my mind. But when I started to understand his desire to take the entrepreneur journey, it made a lot of sense. And so that's what we've taught our kids, that there's nothing wrong with school and education and all of that. But if you want to really make a difference, you've got to be in a position of power where you can. And business ownership and entrepreneurship are key components to that for us. So it's been a journey. It's not easy, but for us, it's been the only way to go.
Dropping gems. Again, these are easy segues you both are giving me, but in terms of those learning experiences that you're going to have being an entrepreneur, right? There's always going to be some pain, some painful moments. What's one of those painful experiences that you both felt like you learned from, right? Where there was a lot of growth, but it wasn't easy to make it through being quote unquote the CEO or founder of your company. Kimberly, you want to start?
Yeah. So for me, it was difficult because I remember one of the things I always say is, as a business owner, I was always fortunate over 20-year span of being able to bootstrap our own businesses. So we have, engineering consulting. We started a logistics business. I've built a call center where I've been on the customer support side, user experience with quality assurance and risk management. But we were always able to fund our own businesses. So when I got in this space and had to start raising capital, it felt unnatural to me. It just didn't feel good asking people for money, but I knew I had to operate in this space. But I will tell you, early on, for me, what I felt like would have been a game changer is to really have real mentors that would give me real feedback, sort of equip me. I'm at a place now where I'm more mature because I've been on this path over the last year and a half. But I can take a fast no. I can take you telling me my company sucks, you're going to lose, you're going to do any of that, even though nobody really does. But I can take it now. But in the beginning, if I'd had people to tell me real things, how difficult this would be, how difficult that would be, not that you can't do it, but if it was there, I think it would have helped prepare me a little sooner. And I could have saved, I wouldn't change anything for the journey, but maybe I would have been able to do things a little different that could have yielded maybe a different outcome for certain things. It's all, there's so many different pain points to becoming an entrepreneur, building a company. So it's not easy. And if you think that it is, it's very likely you should find another industry. But it can be done, and you can do it. But just be ready for the journey, because it's not easy.
All right, did you want to add to that?
Yeah. So for me, I started with that passion, which is most definitely a piece that you need to be successful in anything you go after. But I do most definitely wish that I would have spent a year or two prior to starting my nonprofit doing a lot of the lead work and a lot of planning and building those relationships. I've still been able to accomplish so much in just 2 years and building relationships. But I feel like if I would have built those relationships prior to launching, going after funding and getting everything that I need to be successful would have been a little easier than it is. But I just feel like, that's a lesson that I learned. But I do feel like, hard work and determination is going to get you there regardless. I do spend a lot of time investing into my business, as most people do. It's a lot of hard work. I agree with what Kimberly said. It's a lot of hard work. And so if you're not going to go into all the hard work and understand that every day is not all sunshine and rainbows, you must definitely have some days that it's just silent. And so you have to be able to deal with those up and down moments. So if you are not the person who likes to do a lot of hard work, and this may not be the thing for you, but if you're determined and driven and have that passion behind it, you can be most definitely successful.
Love that the continuity between the feedback that you both are giving. Like, it really is a grind. So I'm curious, you mentioned something there, Car, around finding out, building those networks, building your tribe. Like what are some tips you can give people in terms of like how do you find that community? Because we're hearing more and more now that community is just as valuable as having actual capital.
Yeah, so my advice would be to anyone, a great community resource most people have in their area is joining your Chamber of Commerce, whichever one you choose to join, just to start that networking piece, to be able to talk to others that's a lot of times have the same visions that you have, or maybe an advocate for something that you're pursuing, and that will take you under their arms and mentor you. And that's a great way to develop yourself within your community. And that's one of the things I've done going into my second year, learning about it. So it's a great resource. Most areas have it. And just get involved, being active in local groups, local community events, just showing your face in those communities that you aim to serve. That's a very huge key component of it all. So that would be some things that I would speak on that point.
I think that's a big one. That's another gem there. I got to make sure I put that on the screen in terms of the local chamber of commerce. Like you said, those are resources we pay for as tax paying citizens anyway. So why not leverage it? Kimberly, was there anything you want to add to that in terms of tips that you leveraged to build that community?
Yeah, I gotta say, this journey for me has been about building relationships. Um, I always say that if I had to shut down today, it would be worth it because of the long lasting, impactful relationships that I've built. So, two things that I would suggest, everything that Carr said, make sure that you're accessing your resources, but get really hyper focused about your company's ecosystem. Figure out what it is that you need to sort of move the needle forward. And second, I would say, go in with the servant's heart. Don't always go in looking for something, but go in being prepared to serve as well. I always ask in every meeting that I have, what are the top few things that you're working on? Whether it's 3 or 5, because the people that I've met, that I've connected with, if I can't fulfill at least one of those things, then something is wrong, because we're all on a lot of platforms, especially during COVID. We attend a lot of meetings, we come across a lot of resources, and it would be a shame to have all of these resources and not share them. So focus on your company's ecosystem, and then be willing to build relationships around not only what you can get from someone, but what also you can offer to them as well. And through that, those two things, I've been able to build amazing relationships that will go on regardless of what happens. So those are the two important things for me.
Appreciate that. And Brooke chiming in, the chamber is always going to be a great answer. And then just going along with what, you were saying, Kimberly, as well. Like there's resources out there. You just got to make sure that you're tapping into them, the right way. Don't be afraid, right? Because
Yes.
Again, you both are showing like there's going to be some growing pains throughout it, but it's okay to dive into it, have that discomfort there. And we actually got one more comment in here as well from Elaine. Make sure whatever you're striving for, it definitely has to be that entrepreneur passion, not following others because it seems like their company is moving. So again, just going along the line, just blazing your own trail. We can't really look up, a lot of times in a lot of the textbooks, right, what Black entrepreneurship looks like. And so we really got to make up our own definition.
That's right.
And I think that's where that creativity that we've always shown that we have, it really comes to light. But you both have kind of really touched on, you are doing a great job of, adapting to your space, right? But when I think about the Black female experience, one thing I'm excited to see is how in corporate America and just businesses in general, right? Companies are finding that, industries are finding that they have to adapt to you. So what are some of the things that the folks who are going to be listening to this, like what should they know about adapting, their community, their products to the Black female experience? Kimberly, you want to go first, or Carr? I know that was a big one, right? That's a big one.
That's a big one.
I want to, sorry to cut you off, Kimberly. I just want to make sure that we touch on that because you both are showing like the ingenuity, the creativity is there for Black females, right? And no matter the space. But I think on the flip side of that, we got to make sure that these spaces are adapting to you. So what are some, I know that may be a loaded question, right? But what are some of the things that, businesses or people trying to interact, right, with Black females in general, like what are some of the things that they need to know coming to that table?
I think for me, it's knowing that when I am in that space, I'm there because I deserve to be there. right? I'm there because I have the ability to operate in this space. It's just that we have not been given the chance to do so. So, I always like to say one of my mantras, and I know it really boils down to perspective, but I can sort of use the analogy, when I talk about the experiences that we have in life, I always have this thing where instead of me living my life through an experience, I command the experience to live life through me because I get the chance to choose how I want to operate in whatever experience I'm going through. I feel the same way when we enter spaces where we're the only ones with a seat at the table, or we're the only ones in our departments, that we can also command our presence there, not because of we're just another number or a token, but because we deserve to be there. Our creativity, our expertise, our talent gives us the right to be there. So I think a lot of it comes with confidence and knowing that we can command this space, no matter where we are, no matter what industry we are, whether it's a career path, whether it's entrepreneurship. We deserve to be there. We deserve the same freedoms and failures that other people get the opportunity to do so. So I would say, yeah, while we're adapting to certain environments, we can also command them to adapt to our own environment and what we're bringing to the table as well. I hope that answered your question, if that makes sense.
Definitely. It definitely did. I know, Akara, did you want to chime in there as well?
Sure. I mean, I second everything Kimberly said. Another thing that I've always done it when I'm given opportunities at those tables is to one set my boundaries. I mean, boundaries have worked out well for me in any setting that I'm in, to know what I will and will not tolerate in those spaces, and help people actually understand a little bit about me and understand what I will and won't tolerate, and that leads them to honestly gain a lot of respect for me in those rooms. Another thing that I notice is, it's sad, but it's true. A lot of times in those spaces, you have to educate people. And so with those in those rooms, you have to, like today, I brought the data that I know, right? And so you have to not just say, you should get me, but a lot of times you have to tell them why and give them the information as to why, for them to kind of understand where you're coming from. Because normally in those spaces, it's really not that many of us. And so they never really before, just, we all know, starting in 2020, really just started to open their eyes somewhat to be able to see us a little bit now. But before, they never really had to. And so you have to do a lot of education, which is sad, but that's just the truth. And that kind of helps me, I know for certain, in those spaces when I'm always the only one.
Exactly. You both have alluded to that the whole time. Like, in a lot of the spaces, you are the only one, and so by default, it's your burden, right, to really educate people. But that education is really, really key, and it's a constant conversation. It's just not a one-time thing, right? Because again, there is no textbook, right, that really explains the Black female experience, the Black experience. A lot of these experiences, right, you can't Google it, right? And when it's not Googleable, I don't know if that's a word, but people kind of just, they kind of go, things can go left, right? Because
Yes.
they're not, able to put it in their phone, right? And we're living by these phones every single day. We know that that's one of the gifts and curses of it. We got a couple folks that are chiming in here. Brooke again with another amen. So again, what you both are really really elaborating on, it really resonates, I feel like, with the Black female experience there. And Brooke, again, you ain't never lied. And Elaine, again, as well. You controlling your space. That's a key, and it's your business, right? And so going in with that mindset, that CEO, that founder mindset, right? Even if you don't have a business, right, there's still opportunities, even in the workspace, right, with some of the folks that you're working with Cara, around preparing them to really own that conversation and really take their destiny into their own hands there. Next up, I wanted to unpack a little bit, right? And so when we think of engineering, when we think of tech, there's this big, broad, kind of overarching kind of umbrella that encompasses a lot of things. And when we think of engineering, it's really similar, right? It's kind of this black box that we kind of somewhat know about, right? We can look up somewhat online, right? Get some quick definitions. But Cara, can you explain a little bit around the different programs that you have at your program, Black Girls Do Engineering? Because I think it sheds light on just the different opportunities and the different areas we can really kind of spread our wings in when it comes to having folks in this engineering space.
Yeah, so sure. So I'm very excited to be going into our third year where we've really taken our program still with our hands-on approach, but it's really now future driven. And so a lot of the activities that I do with my girls, we've always done robotics, we always done coding, but now we're doing artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is a huge topic. And we're also environmental, sustainable, renewable energy is a huge focus of ours. And what we did was pretty much look and say, hey, this is 2050. This is our target. What does these jobs look like? And so we've taken that year, dived into it, and all our girls are getting hands-on experiences and expertise from me and my team, who are also STEM professionals, but also to all the corporations, these big tech and big renewable energy companies that back us to be able to support our girls in their learning endeavors. And so we're very future driven. A lot of people, you're starting to see robots now. Everyone see Elon Musk just showed his robot recently. And so people are like, well, are robots going to take our job? Well, I train my girls to be the ones behind the robots. That's right. So they can be able to sustain and be the ones to be able to control them. So when they get into their, I'm not that old, but when they get to my age, there's no worry for them. They'll have all the tools they need to be successful.
The robots are coming is what I got from that, right? When we all see the I don't even know, is it MIT where the robots are like doing challenges now? I actually saw some memes around robots doing the crate challenge. Like they're figuring out how to make these robots do a lot of the labor, quote unquote, right? And so it's definitely going to be vital to have people in a position to tell the robots what to do. The robots are here, and so that's something that we always see, like, some of the movies in the past, we saw like what they were going to be doing. Well, that future is here where they're doing a lot of the things that we were doing in our day-to-day, 20, 30 years ago. And so it's cool that you're positioning your program that way. And even on top of that, Cara, I know that, and I know Kimberly will have something to add to this as well. In terms of your program, right, there is that piece where you're focusing on the STEM, you're focusing on some of the technical pieces of it, but then you're also preparing them with some financial literacy and that business acumen as well. Can you elaborate on that a little bit as well? Because you touched on it earlier around saying, you're looking at them getting a job, right, graduating with these STEM degrees and then moving on to the next level. So can you elaborate a little bit around why you're balancing the program and it's not just hardcore technical?
Yeah, because we're pretty much giving these girls what we wish we had. We didn't have the mentors or representations or anyone to lead us into STEM. So we're teaching them everything we know, everything we're learning every day. Financial literacy, most definitely. I teach my daughters now the importance of investments, stocks, and stuff like that. But I didn't have that. It wasn't until I got into my career that I started learning about it. So our financial literacy program was created to educate them on investments, how to control their money, not just them. We bring their parents in there too, to be able to understand, a lot what we worry about in our community, how we're going to pay for our kids to go to college. How can they start saving? The importance of saving. Even as working in my career, I've done a lot of capital projects. That's very money driven, I can't get those approvals on my projects without the financial department in most corporations. And so being able to understand the benefits of how to manage your own money and also a company is very important. So we wanted to make sure we included that piece in our program.
Love it. And perfect segue again, you're preparing them to manage their own money. Kimberly, I got to pass it over to you because you've done an amazing job over the last year or so, right? Putting your business in the right position, like taking your business acumen, right? And then building a brand ultimately to ask for other people's money. I know you're doing some crowdfunding. You're trying to put some capital together for your business. Can you elaborate a little bit around, Kimberly, for one, how that experience has been, what you've been doing over the last year in terms of raising that capital for Just Her Rideshare, because I know building a tech company has got to be capital intensive, or is my assumption off there?
Well, it's interesting you would say that, because a year or two ago, well, let's just go back maybe even 5 or 6 years ago, it was extremely expensive to build apps. Nowadays, whether you're in the US or whether you're offshore, there are some pros and cons to both, but there are ways that you can get around, because, of course, the more we know about technology, the more we learn, the more innovative we are. We have opportunities of, just think about, 50 years ago, what we might have paid, $100 for. Now, we can find ways to sort of minimize some of that cost, not things in terms of inflation, but, when I started on this journey, it could have potentially cost me $250,000 to build my app. But now we found ways to sort of cut some of those costs by, utilizing resources that are available in technology. So raising capital has been extremely difficult. Again, it was my first time doing it, never had to do it before. And I didn't like it. I didn't like having to ask people to write me checks of money that could potentially be lost. I mean, we do have to face it. It is a potential to fail. Well, I don't call it failure, but a potential for the business not to succeed, because everything, even in business, when your business don't work, it's not failure. It's always a learning experience. But raising capital has been extremely tough. Yes. And it's not easy raising capital. Getting into this industry, I was a little naive, thinking that, oh, I would build this amazing company. People would look at me and maybe like my personality and see that I had the ability to run this company. We could put together a relatively good team, and then we could get some funding. Well, for Black women, it is not that easy. In fact, it is more difficult than anything I've ever had to do. And so one of the things that I've learned, because we have these non-dilutive type crowdfunding platforms that have served some purposes. There is room to sort of improve, because some of these platforms still, they still have this sort of mindset that our communities, all we have to do is just tap into our communities. And that is so delusional because we do not have these communities. And I keep telling people, if I hear somebody else say, go to your friends and family, I'm going to lose my mind. So next time, I get some white guy from MIT telling me to do that, I'm going to say, well, let me use your friends and family, because I don't have them in my community. But it's extremely tough for us to do that. And one of the things that I always say for business entrepreneurs in particular, the best way and the easiest way that you can get capital is to have a proof of concept, to have some traction, let them see what you're doing. It also gives you more leverage as well. Because the numbers don't lie. Get the data. You can have passion, but you can passionately fail. Passion is great. You have to have it, but make sure that you can get the data. The data is what drives when you get into sort of raising capital. So it's a very tough road, and we're just now scratching the surface. So.
I just wanted to make sure I popped that on the screen. The iPhoneWomen.com/project/Just Her Rideshare. That's the platform that Kimberly was speaking to, where she's raising those funds. Make sure, if you haven't, to check it out. And it's just so funny to hear, like, you're like probably like the millionth Black founder that I've talked to that has talked about friends and family rounds, and how some of these companies that can sign the checks are actually telling folks in your position to actually go to your friends and family. Like, it just doesn't. It's just not a realistic, outcome in our community yet. But I feel like it'll change it eventually. But in the meantime, we got to find those individuals who are willing to sign those big checks now, right? And so that's a challenge that Kimberly is really taking on. But I will say, just with the way that you position your business, again, Kimberly, I've seen you just tapping into different media outlets and just making your platform as big as you possibly can. That's one of the things we got to make sure that we continue to do, along with those uncomfortable asks that you said. Like it's going to be uncomfortable at times to ask people for 250,000, right? In your case that you need, but it's got to be done. It truly
Yes.
has to be done. So trying to figure out where we can go next. There's a couple ways where we can take the conversation. Kimberly, so you leveraging the iPhone Women platform. Sorry for that, guys, if you heard that in the background. I am outside, but you leveraging these platforms, right? You're really showing that business acumen, right? That the future leaders that Car is preparing, right, are going to get from that from some of their experiences. But moving forward, right, I want us to. I think everybody needs to have that idea, like that end goal, like you mentioned, Kimberly, that $250,000, that's the check that you need for your business. And so when I think of that, right, I think of the question that our sponsor, we actually came up with this question towards the beginning of last season, I believe, around what world domination looks like for your business, right? And so having that North Star, having that thing that you're not afraid to ask people about. So I want to ask you both, Carl, I want to start with you. What does that world domination look like for Black Girls Do Engineering Corporation?
Well, I mean, I'm very happy where we are just to be here a year too. I get a lot of times in 2 years we were at what a lot of 8 to 10 year nonprofits are. So I feel like I'm on my way. But I always tell myself, for me, once I hit $1 million to start, before year 5 for me as my goal would be my world domination for my nonprofit. Secondly, would be just to be more national. For me, to be able to reach girls all over the world, of course, would be my next goal. But my goal right now is to bring in the money, most definitely, that's needed for my girls. Because like Kimberly, she touched on earlier, you can't go ask friends and families to help you support. So to be able to take a lot of stress away from them and their parents and have the funding there to do so, to be able to give them all the opportunity that I can give them, that would be world domination for me right now.
I love it. And we're going to pass it over to you, Kimberly. What does that world domination look like for you?
So I love what Cara said in terms of what her expectations are for her companies, because so many of us entrepreneurs, in particular, when you get into sort of when your company is VC ready, again, we're just scratching the surface. We're actually raising up to 700,000, but we're trying to close out on that first round of 250,000. But here's my thing. There's a huge part of social impact to our business that I love to talk about, even more so than profit. And investors, I understand the nature of the business. A lot of them don't want to hear if you don't have 10x or if you're not 100 million in 5 years. But I always look at it in terms of, there's Pepsi, there's cola, and then there's cola, right? Cola is doing really, really well. So my trajectory, because there's a huge social impact of what we're doing. Like we're not only just wanting to drive women, make sure they get to a safe place, but we're building community with them. We're partnering with organizations too, who support women who have been impacted by domestic violence and sex trafficking and all of that. So even though we're a for-profit company, we're on a mission. And so world domination for me and my company is just to be able to impact lives of every single woman that encounters another woman when she's taking a ride share. To know that we also have other resources, that our community portal, Just Her Hub, can support you if you're building a business, if you are needing to connect with someone. So all kinds of resources and partnerships. And these are the things that we want to do. So for me, that success is more than just profit driven. It's not about a house or car or boat. It's about impacting lives, long lasting impact. And if we're not doing that in our company, even in just a ride share, then we're not doing what our mission and vision is. So yeah, if we could change lives while we're doing this, that would be world domination. Now, in terms of expectations and where we want the company to be, we want to be riding every single woman, building community with every single woman on the planet if we can. And I know that's huge, but yeah, that's what we want to do.
Two amazing, North Stars, right, is what I call them. But and you both really touched on something. It's not necessarily a dollar-driven amount. I know you mentioned that 250,000 towards the beginning, Kimberly, even the 700,000, right? And it's amazing to see that you both really aren't even focusing on the currency, right, on the dollar value, that dollar impact, because that'll come, right? Like the idea of building community right now, there are just so many folks on Twitter, across all social media platforms, really pressing on building that community first, and then the product comes, which I think is a little bit reversed, right, from what we hear in textbooks, right? It's gotta, the dollars and cents gotta make sense, right, before you actually start, putting a pen to pad, putting the feet on the pavement, right? And that's not always the case, right? And I feel like we have an abundance of community. We have an abundance of creativity. So we got to make sure that we're leveraging that, tapping into that to make some of these products for the next 20, 30 years. Because you mentioned cola, Kimberly. Cola has been around for how long? I don't even know, right? And so everybody's been drinking Coca-Cola for, 100 years, if not longer. And so that's the kind of legacy that we want to build. And it starts with that first. It starts with focusing on the people in the community first. So you both mentioning that, I think that's what's going to make this episode really different, because in the past, right, we've had founders focus on that dollar amount, maybe the amount of users who are using their platform. But you both are really you're really opening up the hood. You're really peeling back the onion a little bit to say, here's what we need at the base level. Here's what we need to focus on. And at the heart of both of yours, I feel like there's a black female component. That should be at the heart of what you both are doing. And I think you both definitely convey that with the conversation today. So, with me saying that, again, I want to make sure that I hop off the soapbox and I shut up, right? I want to give you both, we'll start with Cara, just to let folks know how they can tap in with the brand, tap in with all things that are going on, if there's any ways that they can contribute and be a part of Black Girls Do Engineer Corporation at this very moment.
Sure. So, of course, our website, which is www.blackgirlsdoengineer.org. I'm very excited. We just revamped it. So please check us out. And I'll tell you everything you need to know about our organization. And also, if you ever want to do a contribution, a form of a donation, we are a 501c3. So all donations to our organization is tax deductible, and you could donate on that website. If you ever like to see all the things the girls are doing throughout our program, feel free to follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, or on LinkedIn at blackgirlsdoengineer.org. And so that is mostly our connection channels. But if you ever want to have a question or reach out and learn more about the program, you can always email us at info@blackgirlsdoengineer.org. We'll get back to you and answer those questions that you have.
Thank you so much for that, Kimberly. You want to let folks know how they can tap in with Just Her Rideshare?
Yeah, well, of course, through our website, www.justherrideshare.com. We also have, we're doing a little bit of a marketing campaign for driver acquisitions in the city of Charlotte, North Carolina. Our test markets are North and South Carolina. But our larger test market will be Charlotte starting out. So if you're in Charlotte and you're interested in becoming a driver, whether it's full-time, part-time, just a little gig on the side, then sign up, fill out our questionnaire on the website. We can also follow us, of course, on all social media platforms at Just Her Ride. And where we are connecting, starting to build a good connection with with the community so that we can build. And let's see, website, social media, and of course, you can always email us at info@justherrideshare.com as well. We're also looking to add to our team. So if you are interested and you know what it's like to be a part of a startup at the ground level. You're an entrepreneur at heart. We're looking for a community engagement organizer. And we are also looking for some people in marketing. So hit us up at admin@justherrideshare.com as well.
Got it. And we'll make sure that we add the some of those social media channels that didn't convey at the bottom of the screen for sure. But definitely just want to say thank you both for being on the platform. Again, I want to pass it to you one more time. I want to shut up. Pass it to each of you one more time. Is there anything that you want to leave the audience with? As a lasting thought, you both gave incredible gems throughout. But is there that one thing that you want to leave the folks with? We'll start with you, Kimberly.
Well, first of all, Kenny, thank you so much for this platform, for an opportunity to spend time with you. You've been a huge supporter of Just Her Rideshare. I am humbled and super grateful to be connected to you. You're doing some amazing things. I would say to anyone who is interested in entrepreneurship, business ownership, go for it. Now is the time. Don't put it off. Make sure that you understand that the road is going to be difficult, that you can do it. Do not allow anyone to tell you that you can't. Make sure that you have the confidence to know that if it doesn't work, we're a resilient people, we're strategic, we're creative, that we can pick up and we can pivot and we can move on and we can do amazing things. But don't allow anyone to keep you out of places that are the next generation in terms of technology, in terms of STEM. You can build a great company, and just believe in yourself, and also make sure that you reach out to resources. We can't do it alone. We need each other. Make sure that you equip yourself with the resources and the knowledge that you need to give yourself a fighting chance. But let's do it. We need to create more businesses. We need to get more involved. We need to have more seats at the table. And the only way it's going to happen is that we do it and we teach our children, the next generation, to do it as well. So
I'm going to just pass it to Cara. I'm not going to say nothing.
So again, I also want to thank you, Kenny, and thank you for having me share this wonderful opportunity with Kimberly. She's so amazing, and I will most definitely be following all that you do because it is much needed and very important. I always would say what I say to everyone that I speak with, and especially within our community. If you do not know about STEM, if you have children, please take the time to educate yourself on what it is. Especially in our community, we already see that we're not getting the opportunities, and the STEM future is here. And my fight is I don't want to see anyone left behind, those opportunities when we can just educate ourselves real quick, expose our kids to these programs, and even ourselves as adults. It's never too late to be able to get into those spaces. So educate yourself on what it is and what those jobs look like. Be involved in the conversations and try to get as much information as you can, because I do not want to see us left behind, but we all have to do our part to make sure that does not happen. And so that's all that I have to add on that.
Appreciate that from you both. Just want to say again, thank you both for being on. Cara, you're doing amazing things with Black Girls Do Engineer Corporation, and Kimberly as well with Just Her Rideshare. The STEM focus was there, and so appreciate you both just coming on and really sharing about your platforms and your journey. And with that, we have somebody just chime in and say great job to everyone. That's a great way to close out. I just want to thank the viewers and say thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Beyond Normal podcast. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Cara.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Normal podcast. We can be streamed across all major streaming platforms in addition to YouTube. Come back again.